So let's start with Tyrese Proctor. I don't think you were surprised by this, but he had such a good last 6 weeks that I think people were wondering if he would come back. So what are your thoughts on Tyrese's decision?
Yeah, so I definitely would not say that I was surprised. This has sort of been the anticipated outcome for a number of months now, and they play different positions. Their trajectory looks different for the next level, but you mentioned the last 6 weeks that Tyrese had. It's kind of a similar situation that Duke had with Mark Williams.
Yeah.
The end of his freshman year, he comes on so strong. People wonder, is he going to try and test the waters, maybe sneak into the first round? And ultimately, he comes back and proves that he's a borderline lottery pick. So I would expect Tyrese to now do a similar thing, and he's going to be one of the centerpieces of Jon Scheyer's team next year.
No question. Now, Duke has other decisions that are coming down the pike. And you intimated that there might be some more positive decisions if you're a Duke fan, because I don't want to frame it as positive or negative. If somebody goes, I don't think it's negative, but if for a Duke fan, and people listening are more fans than anything else. So who are the players you think are leaning towards returning?
Yeah, so let me preface by saying that some, sort of to your point, have to leave. Duke has 5 guys coming in.
Right.
There's only a certain number of scholarships. To some extent, some of them have to leave. The guys who I anticipate leaving for sure, Dariq Lively is the only one that I feel with 100% certainty is probably gone. That has been the plan for him since he was in high school. Number 1 recruit. He's going to be, maybe if not a lottery pick, then a top 20, top 25 guy. Dariq Whitehead falls into a similar camp. There has been some chatter about him potentially entertaining coming back on the NBA side of things, just because scouts didn't necessarily see what they had hoped to for him. But at the same time, more likely than not, he's a first-round guy, 20, 25 to the back half of the first round. Then you get into the other guys. Tyrese Proctor was an expected stay. I expect Mark Mitchell to stay as well. There's a lot of appetite at the next level for his tools, but teams would like to see more skill development from him. Mm-hmm. The guy who has the biggest stay or go decision, the one who I feel the least confident in saying which way he'll go, is Kyle Filipowski. If he comes back, he is, the star on what it should be probably a top 10 team. He's going to be a preseason All-American. And let's not forget that he is going to be incredibly marketable in the NIL era. On the other hand, potentially could he sneak into the back half of the first round? Absolutely. A lot of scouts I talked to liken him to Kelly Olynyk or Frank Kaminsky. It basically is a question of how much do you believe in his jump shot, but he's the one I believe who still has a real choice to make.
Comparing him to Frank Kaminsky, I'm not sure, is a great thing. Brendan Marks, at Brendan R. Marks on Twitter. To me, when I look at Kyle Filipowski, I see a guy who's got a lot of skill, but still has to get maybe in better condition, get stronger to improve some quickness and some explosion off the floor. Otherwise, at the next level, there's 1,000 people who are 6'10" and athletic that can limit his effectiveness. So Kyle's got to take his game. Now, you could certainly improve on those things as a pro. So I don't want to completely discount the fact that he could be the 28th pick in the draft if that's what he wants to be. But he could also go the other way in terms of get better at all of these things, and maybe next year's draft he could be like number 12. And maybe that's a different situation. Do you see that? Do you see it playing out that way?
Completely agree. And to a lesser extent, that's sort of the hope with Mitchell and Proctor too, is these guys come back, they develop their deficiencies, and then come next year, we're talking about 3 guys who all go in the top 20. I absolutely think that is possible. With Filipowski, just like you're saying, I know people hear Kelly Olynyk, they hear Frank Kaminsky, and that seems it seems almost derogatory, but Frank Kaminsky was a top 10 pick. Kelly Olynyk has been, he's been a journeyman NBA guy, but has made a healthy amount of money in his career. He's been a long-time starter. Right. So for Filipowski, I do think a lot of it comes down to the shot. Because if he's not able to make that three-point shot consistently, then you're talking about, a 7-foot ball-handling combo forward sort of deal.
Yeah.
He doesn't really offer the rim protection that you would like at a 5, so it's just a little bit harder to see. So if he can come back and up that three-point percentage to 35, 36, 38, 40% ambitiously, all of a sudden we're talking about a different draft projection for sure.
Brendan Marks from The Athletic is joining us here. Let me ask you about Jeremy Roach before we move over to Chapel Hill. Because this is an interesting one for me. I don't know where he goes. He's not. He doesn't look like an NBA player to me. But Duke's got guards coming in. Tyrese Proctor is coming back. So, Jeremy Roach.
It's a dilemma for sure. And listen, Jeremy Roach has been an incredibly valuable player at Duke the last 2 seasons, but to some extent there's some scholarship math you have to do here. And when you factor in Proctor returning, you factor in that Duke has 2 5-star guards coming in. If you add Jeremy Roach back into the fold, that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not by any means saying that Duke should push Jeremy Roach out or that that's happening. I'm not saying that he definitely won't be back because that option is still on the table. But at least from an NBA perspective, there is not currently an appetite for him. So to me, there are 3 choices. There are either A, you come back and are a part of an incredibly crowded backcourt. B, you enter the transfer portal and you go be the guy somewhere else. Or option C is maybe Jeremy's just had enough of college. You know, at this point, a lot of the guys he came in with are gone. They're in the pros. You're doing their thing. Maybe at some point you just want to start your professional career, even if it is overseas. Those are what I see as really the only 3 options for him at this point.
If John Shire ever wants to play 3 guards, you probably need 4 or 5. Jeremy Roach could have a Quinn Cook-like role on this team. I love what I have seen from Roach just as a college player and a leader. I would hate to see him do that in another uniform in college because to me he is a Duke Blue Devil through and through.